Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation. Good evening and welcome back to Computerized Start Live. I am your host, Justin D. Morgan, and as Joe has noticed, I am late tonight. Yes, I am late. It is just in time. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Had to take the trash out. Let's see here who we have in the chat. We have Thomas Armstrong, the Eep of Destiny. We have Joe's Computer Museum. Hi, Joe. Yes, I'm late. Yep, Bomb says just in time. We have Point 5 says Waka Waka. We have Jesse, I83D6SX, just in time. Just says I'm falling asleep over here. Yep, Bomb says it's happening, a Thursday stream. Joe says, yay. Stian says, howdy, y'all. Joe says, now, 10 minutes until we see Justin, /S. Yes. The countdown helps with those that get advertisements from YouTube because, well, those advertisements will start playing as soon as I go live. That's why live streamers put countdowns. It says, at least it doesn't say now scheduled for 3 days from now. I need my instant gratification. Well, I took some ibuprofen, so that helped. There was a point this evening when I got home from work that I was going to delay, but I took ibuprofen instead. Joe's asking, why does Computerized Start have 3 theme songs and 2 intros? Because Computerized Start only has 1 theme song. The other 2 are not the Computerized Start theme. We have Jean-Francois Paré. Hi. Let's see here. Oh, you know, I think I forgot to actually say hi to Joe, hi to Gutbomb, hi to Point 5, hi to Jesse. I think I said hi to Stian, but in case not, hi Stian, because Stian said, ooh, squirrel. Yes. Hi, Jean-Francois. Let's see here. Yes, just as now the repairs can begin. Yes. After a particular segment, which I will play the intro to in a moment, Gutbomb says, I want to make you a 4th intro. Thanks, Jason. We have Sadmac356. Hi, Sadmac. Eep. Stian says, well, deep. Let's see here. Joe says it had better be a remake of the HBO intro, but at 1/3 speed. And Gutbomb says it will be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wrong song. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Thing from Sesame Street. And we have Rudy's retro intro. Intel. Hi, Rudy. All right. Let's see here. I do have a slightly modified Ko-fi goal. The link is in the description because I'm not going to be at the swap meet on Saturday because of reasons. Not the least of which is I had to make a decision before their official decision that won't happen for another 49 minutes or so. But it's going to rain. I was not going to be able to sell stuff if it was raining. I have no way of keeping stuff dry. I can get wet in the rain here in Virginia just as well because it's supposed to rain here too. I don't like driving in the rain, especially not 6 to 8 hours away. Lots of reasons. So yeah, the goal just changed to the normal tip jar. The tip jar helps defray expenses for streaming, parts, pieces, potential regrets. You know the drill. Anyways, the link is in the description if you would like to help with the tip jar. In fact, sometimes even just pays for a random coffee somewhere. Jesse says, yay, retro computer repair, something I wanted to do at 6 p.m., but car repair took longer. I was covered in so much oil that the U.S. government is looking to invade me. Oof. Okay, yeah. Yeah, the next international oil source is in Wisconsin. Stan says, what car? And that's funny. Ooh. Anyways, you know what else is funny?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our favorite segment, Wheel of Regrets. Here's your host, Dustin D. Morgan.
Hey, who comes up with these titles anyway?
Yes, it is time for Wheel of Regrets. And the first Wheel of Regrets entry tonight comes to me from an eBay seller, I believe, in Arizona. So hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Arizona. And unfortunately, this one gets an entry into the Hall of Shame. Because you know, when you get an eBay package that has this marking on it, the eBay seller has done something wrong. Also, USPS, you need a much more official looking open for inspection sticker. Something with maybe the Postal Inspector's Office logo on it. Something that says on it, replication can involve severe penalties from some US code section. I don't know. That looks like something anyone could slap on an envelope without penalty, although the postage due part, well, okay, that definitely came from the Postal Service. Anyway, that's my 2 cents to make your inspections a little more official. But yes, you know. Yeah, Sadback says, you gotta really try to get that to happen. Rudy's laughing at something. Let's see here. Jesse's saying it was the 8th generation Cougar V6. The oil pan gasket was leaking really bad. Oh, thank you, Joe. Oh, Joe just completely filled the tip jar for June. Oh, thank you, Joe. That is so appreciated. I'll put that to good use. Eep! Gut Bomb says, I bet they did media mail for non-media. Point 5 says, was it ticking? No. It might tick after I put it in the computer it's for. Buy more weird broken things. All right. Joe's like, buy more weird broken things. Stian says, well, what's inside? All right. The first thing that's inside is, as Gut Bomb guessed, one of the few reasons why the post office can't inspect something. Yes, my friends, this eBay seller used media mail for a non-eligible item. Sadback says, the USPS does not mess around, but you really got to try to get their attention. Up says, it's happened to me on eBay packages I've received a few times. So anyways, I will let you all guess in the chat what they mailed, and they tried to get away with using media mail, but anyways, there you go. There's the nice little letter they put in the package to let you know that they opened it for inspection. Yes, I do know that the Postal Service did it because, well, there you go. They do postmark it, so I know this was actually opened, and there you go. That's why it was postage due. Contents did not qualify for media mail price. Joe says hard drives. Actually, hard drives might actually qualify, but that is one of those items that computer readable media containing pre-recorded information and oh yeah, you'd have to prove to them the hard drive contained that. So yeah, good guess, Joe. Gut Bomb's getting closer. Gut Bomb says it's a zip drive or a zip disk. It was a drive. Joe says, media mail is books, educational papers, etc. Stan says, you had to pay the difference. Yes, I did, but the eBay seller refunded it. Oh, also, I would like to point out that when the inspector opened the package, they would have immediately been presented with this. So, yeah. I don't know if the Postal Service mails letters to eBay sellers that try to get away with using media mail, but they might have gotten a friendly letter from the post office, because, yeah, they used this for packing inside the bubble mailer. And, yep, Sad Mac got it. Did they mail a floppy drive in that? And yes. Stian says, Joe says they got an invoice from the post office. Yeah, probably. Although, honestly, considering the seller was in Arizona, post office should have probably returned this to sender, not forwarded it to the recipient postage due. Anyways, yeah. Yep. They mailed a floppy drive as media mail. And quite honestly, it would not surprise me if the metal content of the package is how the post office decided they should inspect the package. Because most qualifying media mail items are not going to have much of any metal in them. Stian says they should have stuck a floppy with some pre-recorded stuff in there. Joe says, how floppy is it? Yeah, not very floppy. I am curious if it works. Joe says, why are the x-rays being scattered? Yes, exactly. Thomas says, the drive could contain digital art. Actually, my postmaster is pretty nice. She and I ran through the list of items one by one because I knew what was in the bubble mailer without having to open it, because she wanted to make sure that they got it right. And when I told her that it is the drive used to read pre-recorded computer media, she said, no, that definitely doesn't count. So, yeah. I thought there was a carve-out for, like, a cassette player if you were sending books for the blind, but maybe that's a different... Maybe there's a different way they do that. I thought... Or maybe there used to be a carve-out for sending the player and too many people were abusing it. That might be true. I thought there was a way that, like, a tape player or a CD player could be sent, but to enable someone to listen to books for the blind. But they might have... That might have been too abused, and that may no longer be one of the allowed items. Because that definitely would have been totally used by sellers to sell you a CD or tape player. But anyways, or maybe it was a different type of reader that was in the exceptions that's an obsolete type. I don't know. I thought there was an exception for the drive, but no, there's not. Now, if they had sent me a box of floppy disks, then it probably would have been allowed. Because I don't know that the post office would have gone through each and every one to see what pre-recorded information was on it. They might have actually gotten away with it, but nope. If it weren't for that pesky X-ray or X-ray machine or metal detector that they ran the media mail through, or even just the simple fact that it looked like a very lopsided book from the outside, yeah. I am, though, curious if this floppy drive works now. Thomas says, I got the pleasure of fixing an Olivetti daisy wheel once. Ian says, my condolences. Jesse says it's an Epson disk drive. Well, I guess at least it's not a Citizen drive. Actually, I'll set this to the side. We'll test it later. I'm not going to go pull a LTE right now to test it. But anyway, so there we go. That is the first Wheel of Regrets entry. And thanks to the seller for doing the right thing and refunding the postage, but I still had to drive to the post office to pick it up. And thanks to the postmaster of my post office for double checking to make sure that the inspector got it right. If you want to avoid a scenario like that, go through the list of media mail items when eBay tells you that you can use media mail, because it's quite possible eBay told them they could use media mail, but it's also quite possible they looked at the list of shipping options and said, oh, media mail's the cheapest. I'll use that. Eric says, oh, look, a box. Yes. Yes, this next item comes to us from an eBay seller in Illinois. So, hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Illinois. Oh, yippee. We have a sale ad. Oh, please be a Menards ad. Please be a Menards ad. Please be a Menards ad. Oh, wait, it is a Menards ad. Ha ha ha. I want not that I could use a Menards ad. There's no Menards around here, but I was like going to be like, this would be so boring if it's a Lowe's ad, because I could just go to Lowe's and get that, but it is a Menards ad. Where's the Menards guy? I know they've got to have it printed here somewhere. There we go, yeah, Menards. The Midwest hardware store chain. There we go. I don't know. All right, we'll get to the item. Oh, and apparently they used an Aldi grocery bag. And I am probably crazy for buying this. But anyways. I bought 2 items from this seller. Thomas has got to run to a hockey planning meeting. Oh, have fun, Thomas. Ethan says, oh, wait. Jesse says, save big money at Menards. Yes. Gutbum says, I'm not the only one that uses grocery bags as packing material. Yeah. So, anyways, I think both of these items were actually auction listings. So I had to actually bid on them. The first one is a 5 1/4 inch disk drive head cleaning kit, which I had to bid on because it had not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 cleaning diskettes in it. And yeah, this one has 0 marks on it, so it might actually be completely unused. Oh, it even has the sticker on it for single-sided drives. Oh, maybe it's been used. Oh. Or it might have been used once. It looks fairly clean. But we have a couple others here. And we've got a dropper, which is potentially totally useless. And then I think we have 2 empty bags of cleaning fluid, which would have contained isopropyl alcohol. So anyways, I didn't need the empty bottles of cleaning solution. Ooh, how to maintain your 5 1/4 inch disk drive. That could be interesting. The dropper, nice. But the PA stay resistance, some head cleaning discs. So there we go. That was item number 1. Jesse's asking Gutbomb, are you wearing a grocery bag? Ian says, hey, that's something I could technically use, although my TX seems to work fine without cleaning. Ian says, I spy connectors. All right. And in the Aldi bag, we have an 8-bit controller card. Because I think I snagged this fairly cheaply. But anyways, we have an 8-bit controller card that has 2 serial, a parallel, and a game port controller. And it even has the requisite chips on it. Look at that. It is a T-Zone brand, potentially. Not to be confused with the T-Mobile Zone. I'll have to look at what I paid for these, because they were auction price, and I think one of them, I sniped it at the opening price. Yep, let's see here. Yeah, Ian says, Rudy says, 5¼ inch cleaning floppy diskettes are hard to find. Yeah, they are. As Steven says, at this point, 5¼ inch regular floppy disks are getting hard to find. I went to eBay to buy one. They were like $60, so I decided against it. Yeah. Steven says, I paid $50 for the drive. I had floppies I wanted to read, so I bit the bullet. Yeah, I know. Jesse says, not to be confused with T-Zone hunting season. Exactly. All right, I was going to look these up on eBay. Because I think one of them I bought at the opening price, and the other, I think someone had placed a bid, but I outbid them. Oh, yeah. Okay, so the head cleaner discs, I'm going to... Oh, okay. I think that actually had a bidder on it. Oh, yeah, it had 7 bids in total. Maybe I overpaid, but I paid $32. And I only did that because there was 4 cleaning discs in the box, not just one. And the IO controller card, I paid $11.50 for. Oh, actually, I was the second bidder. And the seller combined shipping, so... Anyways. Oh, good. That one's actually has the double-sided label on it. Or the single-sided label on it. That one's got the single-sided label on it. That one's got the single-sided label on it. Oh, cool. So actually, I can use these for single-sided drives, or I can remove the label and use them for double-sided drives. Or I can, even when I use up one side of it for a single-sided drive, put tape on that side, remove that label, and use the other side. So, actually, for the fact that they are in good condition, and they're for single or double-sided drives, that's actually probably a pretty good price. Because these disc cleaning diskettes are getting hard to find, that is for sure. I'm hoping this will make it easier to clean 5¼ inch floppy disks, because I have some that are really difficult to disassemble. Rudy says, or you could sell me one, Justin. Well, that actually could potentially be true. Yeah, I'll think about it, because I don't necessarily need 4. But we got a controller card. That's for one of my XTs. And Steven says, and then we'd have sales of regret. Yes. I won't send it media mail, because I'm pretty sure that the postal inspector would be able to conclusively prove there's no pre-recorded data on it. Pre-recorded dirt? Maybe. Pre-recorded data? Yeah, they'd have me there. All right, and this final package comes to us from an eBay seller in Ohio. So, Ohio to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Ohio. And a special hi to Joe, if he's still in the chat. Joe was actually mentioned in an Ars Technica article the other day. So go check out jcm-1.com for all of your hobby upgrade needs. And go check out that Ars Technica article. And go check out the 3D filament that is in the platinum color. Go buy some of that if you have a 3D printer. Let's let that seller of that filament know that, yes, we want colors like that. And then maybe they might be willing to make other colors for vintage computers too. So, anyways, so what do we have from the seller in Ohio? This is probably my craziest It is a slightly crazy purchase. But I bought this to repair and resell. For full disclosure. Because I bought it, like, really cheap. But we have an XT motherboard. And oh boy, does it have a nice assortment of memory chips. I think someone has, either someone meddled with them or IBM was just putting whatever memory chips they had in the board when they built it. Ian says, "You're not the first to repair this board. I had that distinct impression." That is quite possibly... And yeah, it is quite possible that I am going to find problems with this board. It is also possible... Actually, interestingly enough, I think there might be a defect with the solder mask there. That's kind of interesting. You can see the copper ground layer there. I don't think that's anything wrong with the board. I think it just has a imperfect solder mask. But anyways, we will not be testing this board right now for one simple reason. Someone has swiped the processor off this board. So I will have to go find an 8088 processor to put in it. But it does have the ROMs. And it does have all of the socketed chips it's supposed to have. So at least that chip is present. This chip is absent. But because there's no jumper installed here, then there would be no chip here in this socket. So that is correct. And it does appear to have 256K of RAM installed, although the chips are kind of all mismatched. But I figured, worst case, if I can't repair the board, I basically have 36 64K by 1-bit memory chips for $25. If I can repair the board, then I am going to recap it to get all these nasty tantalums off, and I will, of course, have to put a processor in it. I might even be convinced in the repair to install a jumper in a chip so that someone could upgrade it to 640K if they wanted to. Eric says a bargain at any price. But anyways, I figured the likelihood that all the chips are not functional is probably low. Hopefully that's not foreshadowing. But yeah. So this, we'll take a look at this on a stream someday. I don't know if I'll do a stream or a video on it. But it's going to be the repair to resale. And obviously I'll have to find a processor for it. But anyways, yeah, it got listed and the price was really cheap, so I fell for it. All right, and now we've gone through all of Wheel of Regrets. In fact, I don't have many more items inbound, mainly because I thought I'd be going to the swap meet. So I do. Yes, okay. I do have an item that Francois will be happy to see once it comes in. It's just getting here slowly. I do have a cable for my Atari ST coming, so I can try to test the mega file. That might actually be here tomorrow, assuming they didn't mail it registered. They did mail it registered, which they might have, because it does look like it I can't tell if the R in the tracking number is in the position for registered or if it just has to do with the fact they mailed it from France. Because I can't. I thought it was coming from Italy, but when I went to go track the package, it looked like it was actually the French postal system. Which was weird. But I don't know French. I also don't know Italian, but the text coming from the tracking system seemed to be Italian, not French. But maybe it is French. I don't know either language. Hi, Callan. Welcome. Anyways, so hopefully soon I will have a cable for my mega file, and we'll have to try that out. I will have a Trident card. I'll go ahead and spoil it. And I've got an interesting processor inbound. So, oh yeah, we're going to get to the SC30, Joe. Yeah. So anyways, you'll have those potential regrets to look forward to. But now, let's get to the SC30. And first, we're going to get to modifying this cable so I can plug it in. And Joe says 100 SC30s inbound, lol. Nah, I don't have any SC30s inbound, but I do have a charged cable for my oscillating multi-tool. Oh yes, if you do have it set to 0 and you trigger it, it does not turn on. You do have to set a speed. So Joe says, ooh, cable hacking, let's go. Yes. So we are first going to hack this cable using an oscillating multi-tool because I thought it would give me a slightly cleaner cut than a Dremel. So I am going to attempt to cut this I am going to need to... Let's see here. This is actually going to need to be clamped to the bench, I think. Well, alright, maybe I can... Oh. Hold, please. Remember, kids, when doing something potentially stupid, wear your safety glasses. Oh, look at that. Ah. It looks like I managed to get a fairly clean cut exactly where I needed it. So let me... Hi, Bruce. Welcome. Capcom says I've never had to cut them. Well, this one will not fit for some reason. Just says realizes he cut the wrong side. Using patent pending technology, I ordered 2 in case I screwed one up. Oh, wait. Something tells me that I can't patent it for obviousness. Never mind. See, there we go. I have trimmed the cable. I do want to trim off the little locking tab. Because it's in the wrong spot. There we go. And now, to prove to you all that I did not trim it in the wrong place, I'm going to take the SE board and I'm going to plug this in. Ta-da! I previously marked it. Joe says I'm kidding. Yeah. I had previously marked where it needed to be trimmed. Because for some reason I couldn't get this plugged into the... I just dropped one of the Sims to the floor. Oh, hi Dave, welcome. Let's see here. We discovered the bee gun, says Joe. Yes. All right, now I need to trim the other side. Not because the cable won't fit if I don't trim it, because I do believe the cable from the analog board will plug in just fine, but I want to get rid of the extra because it's not needed. So, for this though, I'm going to try to cut it in the middle of the row beside it. There we go. Let me do it this way. Oh, Rudy system. Yeah, I probably should mute my mic, but who doesn't want to hear the ASMR sounds of home construction and cable hackery? There we go. Ta-da! We have one extension cable, and now if I had air tags, I would put an air tag on this so that I can't misplace it. Ian says, my favorite ASMR sound is an idling diesel engine. Yes, I have issues. Jesse says, Justin needs some of those red tools. Kidding. Oh, yes, the battle of red versus yellow. And I'm not referring to Harbor Freight versus Fluke meters. Setback says, I had other noise going on at the time, so honestly, I didn't hear a lot of it. All right, so now I have an extension cable. It will plug into the logic board. Ian says, I heard painting a yellow wire orange drops the voltage from 12 volts to 3.3 volts. Joe says, I may have a cold. First one since 2018. Ah. Alan says, you beat me to it, Dave. Dave was saying AirTag on the GoTech. Yes. The GoTech would be the first item the AirTag would go on. Gutbum says, I want to get a Dreamcast and an Xbox original steering wheel. Okay, that was a random comment while I was modifying cables. Bruce says, oh, Bruce is still recovering from influenza A. Well, I hope you can start to get better, Bruce. All right. So, now that I have modified the cable as such, I can now go grab the SE30 parts and we will inspect them and put them together enough to bench test. And Jesse says, and I did put an AirTag on my compact SLT USB-C power detectors. Yeah. Oh, Gutbump says, I mentioned the steering wheels because your regrets segment got me on eBay. Ah. Ian says, I just bought a steering wheel, so I can't afford to go on eBay for a while. Mine is in a Prevost motor coach. On the plus side, it's just as old as my 68K Max. Bruce, oh, Bruce, yeah, it is. In fact, actually, it is finally getting warm over here. It's been a rather cool for the time of spring that it is. It's been rather cool here. All right, let me go start to grab SE30 parts. All right. All right, so I have the parts from the SE30. We have the analog board, which I removed to inspect. And also, I removed it so I could pull the power supply off of it to figure out what model it was. Because I do have cap kits somewhere for them. I'm not sure they need recap, though. They will eventually. So the power supply that was in the SE30 is an Aztec. This one cap here is... Oh, it's not a Reefa cap, and it's probably fine. looks like it might be one of those paper caps, but it looks like it's still sealed. So I don't see any signs of leakage. It does not smell like fish. Probably okay to test. The analog board. The neck board looks a little dirty, like there might have been some, I guess, soot from the CRT. So I think this unit may have had some usage. But it does look like the caps are generally in good shape. I don't see any signs of leakage. So again, probably okay to try powering it up. And so let's go ahead and probably put this back together enough to test it. At some point I'll probably recap it, but I don't think. Stian says soot is not something I normally associated with computers, more with engines. I don't know if soot is. I don't know what the mechanism of it is, but I do know that as you run a CRT, you can get a very fine black deposit on it. And I thought it was from had something to do with the fact that you're basically you've got a high voltage source. Now, I don't know if it's actually soot, but a lot of TV technicians will call it soot. Ian says, I mean, it does unquestionably look like soot. Sadmax says, I really only associate soot with the insides of CRTs. Yeah, because I know as the filament burns off inside a CRT, it is going to leave a deposit, because the filament is a wear item, a non-replaceable wear item. Yeah, Sadmax says, Stian says, are the former insides of Reefa caps. Yeah, Sadmax says, I don't know if it actually is soot or if it just looks like it. Rudy says, soot is from using diesel instead of gasoline in the SC30. Good one, Rudy. Good one. Bruce says, I associate soot with the inside of a chimney. Yes. All right. There we go. All right. Let me go ahead and screw this back together. Yeah, I had inspected this partly because when you go to Console 5 and look up the cap kits for the power supplies, there's a note on them to actually check that the power supply actually is what it says it is. But I think there's also a note for this one that it sometimes contains Reefa caps, but not always. So they if it does, you got to order the replacement polymer cap separately. Rudy says, I think the computer soda is from 80s Hairspray. Yeah. All right. I do want to make sure I got the ground lead back in the correct spot. Oh, I think I might be missing one of the power supply screws. Or that screw goes on something else. All right, I'll figure that out in a moment. Oh, Dave says it's actually cooked on dust due to the heat buildup. Okay, that probably makes more sense. I guess just the fact that the dust is cooked, that it kind of looks like soot. All right, good night, Rudy. All right. There we go. Power supply. Have done nothing to it. But I think I do think you pretty much have to put these back on before you can put them in the case. All right. Also, probably now would be as good a time as any to mention that you shouldn't be messing around with power supplies and analog boards unless you know what you're doing. And you want to, because they can store high voltages in the caps and in the CRT itself, because the CRT is effectively like a large capacitor. However, I've had this analog board and power supply out of the SE30 for a while now, so why I did not need to discharge it before reassembling. Yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, you should probably have someone that does know what they're doing work on your Mac. I would not call myself a CRT expert. I have had high voltage safety training, but I am not a CRT expert. So I at least do know what the voltages involved could do, and I am being careful. And once I actually energize this, then I will be even more careful. There we go. At least have the analog board plugged in. I'm fairly sure I'm going to have, if I had an adapter that I could just plug into where the video signal is and use a RGB to HDMI, then I could actually not, I could bench test this without hooking it up to the CRT. Ian says, I touched the flyback transformer on a plugged-in SE. That was my high-voltage safety training. I learned not to ever do that again. Yes. Yeah, Sadmax says, at this point, I figured for the most part, the obligatory, you're doing this at your own risk. If you don't know what you're doing here or aren't comfortable with it, don't thing was a given. Yes. Anyways, I always do at least like to give the disclaimer so that the YouTubes can't say that I don't warn you. All right. I am going to clean off the anode cable, and then I'll pull out the rest of the SE30, and we'll go ahead and hook up the things to the CRT. I will, because this is quite a grungy cable. I don't expect that it's going to clean up completely, but all that. Oh, I think there's some plasticizer leaching on this side. All right, clean that off. There we go. That looks a little better. At least if I stick my hand in it now, I won't get my hand dirty. All right, let's set the analog board to the side. Let me pull out the chassis, and we'll go ahead and reassemble it enough to test the logic board. So the logic board, I will leave outside the case. I will probably even leave the looking at a shadow, and the shadow made me think there was something wrong with the CRT alignment. Anyways, I am going to. I think in order to do this, I will have to put the analog board in the chassis because I'll have to connect the neck board and the anode cap, and I don't think there's enough slack to do it any other way. At least not so that I could see the display. I'm sure I could find some way of positioning them, but also see the display. No, not that I can think of. We have our display. It is a Clinton Electronics, like all the other compact Macs. I think they pretty much, I guess at least through the SE30, I think they were all Clinton Electronics. I think maybe the Classic and Classic 2 might have, I want to say they might have actually had other brand tubes as well. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Dave says, I will save some sun for you when you send the SE30 case to me for retro brighting. Ah, thank you, Dave. It might, I may only send you the back of the case because the front of the case looks. Oh wait, no, I should probably send you the front too, because the moment you retrobrite the back of the case, then the front of the case will not look so perfect. Yeah, I'll have to send that to you soon. Luckily, the case doesn't need repaired. So hopefully it's just a retrobrite. Alright, so this is not a how-to video on how to reassemble a classic Mac. There may be better ways of doing this. I might forget steps and have to then go back and fix what I did wrong. I do know, though, that some important things to keep in mind is, one, you do not want to bump the neck of the CRT. That is a fragile spot. Two, if you put screws in the metal chassis to then not lose them when you reassemble your Mac, you are going to have to remove those screws before you will be able to put the analog board back into place. Three, you definitely want to make sure you reinstall the anode cap and the ground wire. And once you reassemble it, if things don't sound or look right, then you're probably going to want to turn the power off really quick. Especially if by chance you hear a arcing noise, or if by chance you see a very bright spot in the middle of the screen, or even just a bright horizontal line in the screen, you will want to turn it off really quickly. The arcing noise would be the indication that you have accidentally necked your CRT. Or I guess potentially it's the flatback, but and the bright horizontal line or the bright dot would be that you've probably forgot to reconnect the ground or anode cap or something. Well, actually, if you forget to connect the anode cap, I don't think you're going to see anything. If you forget to connect the ground, you might see a bright horizontal line or a bright dot, because you will not have deflection or correct deflection. And you could actually very quickly burn that into the screen. So that is why you would want to turn it off really quickly. Dave says, yep. So I do know that you do want to reconnect grounds. So I am screwing the analog board back in. Because a lot of the screw points are ground points. I'm having just a little bit of fun with alignment. I could try to zoom out, but I'm not sure you would be able to see what I'm doing still. Yeah. Anyways, yep, I'm getting all of the screws into the analog board, into the chassis, because I believe they're all used as ground points. And while I could probably get away with only putting a few in, I do like my electronics well grounded when it comes to ground points. There we go. There's 2 screw attachment points in the front and 2 in the back here, and I have the metal clip in. Then there's also this ground wire here coming off the power supply. I definitely want to get that too. Because I think this ground wire is just to make sure that the power supply exterior is grounded. I find it especially important to get your grounds if you are going to be testing something like this open. Because if I were to short something to ground and I have all the grounds in place, then I will probably trip a breaker or a fuse. And that is why they're there. So in that case, I should not fear the fuse or the breaker. Right. Just realized my iFixit toolkit is upstairs because I was taking a look at a computer upstairs that is misbehaving. Right. Well, oh, another thing that you can forget to plug in that can cause a bright line to appear on the screen is the deflection yoke. If you forget to plug that in, that can cause a line to appear. Yeah, I think if you completely forget to plug that in, then you would have probably the bright dot. Or if it's not fully seated, then yeah, you could. Well, huh. Did they intend for one end to go in? Oh, there we go. I'm going to plug this cable in to the analog board just because it'll be easier to do that now before I put the neck board on. All right, I will go ahead and put the neck board on. Again, if this CRT had been running recently, I would want to discharge it first. Well, actually, if it had been running recently, then I would not have the neck board detached. But if I was taking it apart and it had been running recently, I would want to discharge it first. So I have the neck board in place. This cable's in place. Let me go ahead and get the ground. You definitely want to make sure you have this ground connected. It is a very important ground for the CRT to operate. I should probably There we go. I'll bring my iFixit toolkit downstairs at some point. Okay. There's the anode cap. That's in place. Very nice. All right. All right. So there's those cables. I'll need one for the drive and one for the logic board. All right. I can set this chassis on the stainless steel bench. There's nothing that'll short on the very bottom of it, since the logic board will be out. The first power up, I am just going to use the logic board. I'm not going to plug any drives in. I'm going to plug in 4 megabytes of memory, which last stream we did run a memory test on. I used a PC to do it and mem test. So I got the ROM sim, 4 megabytes of RAM, and we'll use my extension cable that I custom trimmed to size. It will only plug in one way. So there we go. Hi, Retro Tech Chris, welcome. And I'm going to oh. All right. So now I've got the power switch turned off here. And all right, I guess I should probably get Droid Cam ready. Oh, let me turn my smart outlet on. Okay, so my smart outlet is on. All right, if assuming we don't hear any concerning noises, I will switch to Droid Cam to look at the screen. 3, 2, 1. I do not have the speaker plugged in. Hey-ho, look at that. Joe has a happy. Yay. All right, waiting for the flashing floppy disk to load. There we go. Yay! Look at that. There we go. So everyone can see the beautiful recapping job. There's our RAM. Focus. There we go. See ROM sim. We got a fan spinning. Yeah, all right. That looks good. Okay, we'll add that. All right, so the system is definitely still charged. Stan says, how much RAM is there? It's 4 megabytes. I only put 4 megabytes of RAM in there. So let's do I have a snooper floppy disk created? All right, let me go ahead and put the other 4 megabytes of RAM in. And I'll get a keyboard and mouse. And I will get my floppy emu. You all can place your bet in the chat how long it'll take me to find my floppy emu. By the way, the smart among you will remember the comment I made the other day about my floppy emu. And you might realize it's a semi sort of trick question. Little does Justin know that he might have woken up in the middle of the night and punked himself. Or did he? Nope, there's the floppy emu. Now, of course, the question is, where's the cable? Oh boy, maybe I did punk myself. Oh. Wait a minute. Why? Oh boy. I just realized. Upbum says, swap meet weather update. Swap meet will proceed as scheduled. All right, well, that unfortunately does not... Well, I will not be at the swap meet. I had to make my decision earlier today. There were many factors that went into it, which included the weather forecast at the time I had to make the decision by, and how much work I have to do. Yeah, I have tricked myself because I found the floppy emu, but beats me where I put the cable. The cable is normally attached to the floppy emu, so that's a surprise. Chris says, oh well, I will be around this weekend if you make it up here. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make it up that way this weekend, Chris, but I will soon. Steven's asking if I attacked the cable with the Ryobi tool. No, I did not. But that's not to say I... Obviously, I didn't put the cable with the floppy emu. It's not because I ordered an extension cable for it. Hold on. No, I did not order that extension cable. Okay. Mike says, "Hi, Mike's Future Retro. I hate car issues. Venting. Frustration. May not be at the swap meet this weekend." Oh, bummer. Just says, "I want to go to a swap meet and see my friends." Yeah, I do want to go to a swap meet, and it's just, yeah. Ultimately, I had to make the decision earlier today, and the decision was no go, which means they're expecting me at work tomorrow. So I will go to another swap meet, and hopefully the weather will be good, and I might actually sell a few things at the swap meet too. All right, I'm trying to find the floppy emus cable. I have set it to the side for some reason. If I can find a floppy disk that's marked Snooper, then I'll forget it and we'll try the floppy drive I repaired. But I don't remember where I put my Snooper floppy disk. That's the problem. Although, Chris, that's still not to say I might not come up your way this weekend. If the weather is better than they're forecasting, I might change my mind. But right now, the weather forecast is storms this weekend, and I'll pick a slightly nicer weekend for driving if that's the case. But yeah, I reserve the right to change my mind if the weather forecast changes. Um, okay, I found the floppy emu cable. Okay, that's a step. At least I can. Okay. I don't know where my DB19 adapter is right offhand, but at least with the cable, I can still run Snooper. All right. So there we go. Mike says October swap. Oh, there is going to be a swap meet in October? That would be good. I was thinking there was a swap meet that was in the fall. So I was even thinking there was usually another swap meet at System Source later in the year too, but there's not one on the VCF schedule at the moment. I did see, though, they've scheduled VCF East for next year. All right. So I'm putting the cable back on the floppy emu. I think I took the cable. I think I took the cable off to test a Quadra 650 or something. Yeah, I think that's when I did take it apart. Because the Quadra 650, I would have had to have removed the drive cage frame to actually get to the floppy connector port. So instead, I disassembled my floppy emu and just plugged the cable straight into it. And now I'm reassembling it. So what I'll do is this boot, I will plug in. Let me see if I can. Oh, you know, it would help if I had eyes on a keyboard and mouse. I'm stepping it up, Thomas. I'm not going to plug everything in yet. I'm going to put 8 megabytes of RAM and a floppy emu, and I'm gonna boot Snooper and make sure the Mac is happy with the RAM. And then I will plug the hard drive and floppy drive in, and we'll try booting from the hard drive. If you remember from one of Dave's streams, I did image the hard drive. Now, the thing is, I really don't want to hold my phone the entire time Snooper's running. So I'm going to have to try to find some way of setting it against something so it's pointed more or less at the screen. Oh, hi, CDI. Welcome. All right, I'm trying to find my Macintosh keyboard. It likes to hide along with everything else. It's shy. I think it runs away when I have Wheel of Regrets because it's afraid that being an Apple design keyboard, I'll call it a regret and get rid of it. But in reality, that's the only Apple keyboard I have that works. Well, other than another one. The only keyboard where I usually know where it is. Except, of course, when I misplace it. Oh, please. Compact keyboard. That's keyboard. Oh, here it is. I actually put it on my shelf on top of compact LTEs. All right, so I have the keyboard and mouse. All right. So I am going to turn on Droid Cam. I'm going to see if I can find a spot where I can set it. Like maybe right there. All right, well, that's... Oh, here we go. I use the vice grips to... All right, it is very tenuous balance, but it'll have to do. All right. Floppy drive plugged in, keyboard and mouse. Plugged in. Things falling off my workbench. Of course. All right, 3, 2, 1. Dave says, I hear Apple is having a sale on AirTags. Yes, they are. You could get a 4-pack for like $75 on Amazon. Oh, good. We are booting. Yay. All right. I realize it will not be a full screen experience, but you'll at least see what I see. Well, actually, you will see better than I can see because all I can see is the side of the analog board. I'll actually have to run Snooper by looking at the OBS window. All right, so I may have too much selected. Let's deselect printer and modem. Okay, I think that's good. I don't expect we'll have a RAM problem because I ran the RAM test, but let's see here. All right, there we go. Because the tip jar filled up so quickly this month, I've set a new, oh, let me point out, new coffee goal for AirTags. The link is in the description. And I promise, the first 2 items that will get an AirTag are my GoTech and my floppy emu. That way, if I misplace them, I can use my iPhone 12 mini to locate them. You know, I couldn't read the screen, but I sure thought that said test failed. Oh, okay, well, I don't have anything plugged into SCSI. That's probably why that failed. Okay, testing RAM. Oh no, there is a RAM failure in bank B. Let me view the log. Oh, can I view the log? RAM tested. Oh, my soldering iron's in the way. Whoop, and I just moved the phone. Failed 3. Yeah. RAM failures. Alan says probably the RAM socket. Well, they are RAM sockets with metal clips. But I guess maybe I can reseat the RAM because the RAM did pass when I tested it on the PC. All right, let me do this. I removed the RAM. Now I'm going to find my contact cleaner. Try swapping the sticks around and running the test again. It'll tell you if it's the SIM or the socket. Well, let me first deoxit that socket, or in this case, those sockets, and I'm going to reseat the RAM, and I'm going to run it again and see if it still fails. And if that fails, then I'll swap the two banks. Yeah, I've got Sims in Bank B, Gutbomb. I went ahead and installed all 8 megabytes. Possible I had something in one of the Sims. So, no, it wasn't. I mean, it looked like it was in Bank B just because it said it failed while the box was around the Bank B. And I'm fairly sure Snooper is aware of the banks on an SE30. I believe this version of Snooper is new enough to know about an SE30. Oh, wait a minute. Let me do none and then select RAM and we'll start. So it looks like it's running Bank B now. Although, it's zipping through Bank A really quickly. View the log. Oh, the log doesn't. All right. All right, let me swap them and see what it does. I'll also spray contact cleaner into bank A. All right. So the memory I had in bank B was the mismatched sims, 2 Intel and 2 MT RAM, but they're the same speed and size, so they're only mismatched by brand. Now, all right. I've swapped the memory. Jesse says, just like DTC codes, they raise further questions. I mean, I presume Snooper draws the box around the bank of RAM it's testing it. Especially because one of the banks, it was bank A that the box was disappearing quickly on. Bank B, it stayed there, so maybe the RAM failure was in bank A. Let's see what it does. If bank A runs and then bank B is really quick, then maybe I picked the wrong bank of RAM. If they all run, then maybe I reseeded something. No, bank A is really quick. Bank B is slow. Test failed. Hmm. All right. Well, I know how to. Okay. Joe says, lick the anode cap. That makes the RAM test faster. I'm going to remove memory from bank B. So now I only have 4. Upum says Apple Diagnostics might have more detail. Apple Diagnostics is not something I have a boot disk for. Upum says that should be on a software disk image I sent you a while back. And that would require me to find a blue SCSI external or something and an SD card and write an image. And I think last SD card I used with the blue SCSI, I think it failed while I was using it. But yeah, I probably have that image. It's probably on this computer. It's finding an SD card. And for that experiment, ideally an external blue SCSI. I've got one. It's just, where did I stick it? Tell you what, I'll start the process of looking for it. Well, I found an over easy. That might help me plug a blue SCSI in. Bus error. Well, something tells me the bad RAM is probably in the SC30. Or it's not RAM and it's one of these addressing transceivers. Sorry, a system error occurred. Bus error. Something tells me that's probably memory related. Shouldn't. Joe says I prefer taxi errors. All right, well, let's see what this 4 megabytes of memory does. All right, if this does the same thing, then we probably, well, then the error is in bank A and it's not related to the sims. If this works, then it means there's something wrong with one of the sims that in the other set. DadMax says at least it's not a crosswalk error. Yeah. All right. None. RAM. Start. Oh, that must be a canned animation with Snooper. Because I don't have any RAM in Bank B, and it's showing testing both banks. The test failed. Bus error. Wah, 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 wah. CDS says, bad Joe, no cookie. All right, I kind of think we might have a bad transceiver chip. Jesse says, this feels like feels like middle school in a nutshell. Yeah. Interesting that if I have 8 megabytes of RAM in the system, it seems to be okay. Okay, I'm going to try something wild and crazy here. I'm going to rule out a potential problem with the Sims. Like, maybe they're incompatible. I mean, they look like they're 80 nanoseconds, and I think that's fast enough for the SE30. All right, I am looking for some 4 megabyte Sims. Found my box with blue scuzzies in it. That might come in handy. my memory, my box with the 4 MB sims in it. Barring that, the motherboard I opened on Tuesday that's got 16 1 MB sims on it. I don't know if any of them are good, but let me see what speed they are. Sorry, I'm having trouble picking them up. Trying not to get out of my chair because that might generate static electricity. Let me see, they are 70 nanoseconds. Just says 80 is perfect for that machine. All right. Well, I'm going to rule out that there's like some weird problem with those sims. I don't know what it would be that would cause them to pass mem test on a PC, but fail snooper. While we wait for that, I would to see if I ordered some chips from Mauser. The thing is, I don't think I've ordered them yet. All right. None. RAM. I don't expect this is going to have a different result. Okay. Hi, Kibbs with Retro. Welcome. Okay. So, to no one's surprise, 4 random sims from a potential eBay regret that I haven't been able to test yet did not fix the problem. All right, so I'm going to try something wild and crazy here. I don't think the SE30 is going to like this at all. But I'm putting 4 MB in bank B, nothing in bank A. And that is exactly what I expected. Okay. So this machine does need RAM in bank A. All right. I'm looking to see if I did order. Okay, so I ordered card edge connectors and DIN connectors on that order. And let's see, back in April, I ordered some, let's see, microcontrollers, logic gates. Sockets. Oh, I did order some 74 ALS 245s. Okay. All right. Let me see if I can find the remainder of the Mauser order. Joe says, Justin's house is huge. I want to use it as another warehouse. Kib says, are the Sims blessed by Jobs and Wozniak? Considering some of those Sims were in a PC, they were probably cursed by Jobs. John, oh, hi, John. John says, SC30 is the best classic Mac because stuff at 5.5 needs an O30. Yes. Just as my entire house could fit in Justin's basement. Mauser.com, that is the proper website. Now let's see if I can find the order. Without stepping on the things that are on the floor that I will put in my trash can after the stream's over and then take the trash bag outside. Right, hold please. And I can say that based off of what else was in the order. So the first spot is not where I put it. That would have been with the SE30. The second spot would have been on the shelf because it had a bunch of generic stuff, but that is also not it. The third spot is over with the item that I ordered some sockets for. That is not over there. Which means I put the order in a really silly place. Where I put them for quotes. Hey, keeping. All right. Okay. Because reason I'm looking for it is because it looks like I did order the transceiver chips that could be at fault if this is a transceiver, a bus transceiver issue of one being out of spec, because these three here, and specifically like the two here closest to this cap, were quite green when I got the board. And even though they cleaned up nicely in the ultrasonic cleaner, I still ordered chips to potentially replace them because I knew better than to just assume that, oh, it looks like they're working now. Just unfortunately, I put the order from Mauser somewhere creative. Which probably means I'll end up ordering the chips again and then finding them. Oh, John said those are video buffers, so you'll know right away if they're bad if the video is messed up. Oh, so maybe I'm looking for the wrong chips. Okay, well, we're having an issue with memory. That's not causing it to like really. So whatever the problem is, you can boot and run Snooper, and the memory test in Snooper fails. I've tested these sims in a PC with MemTest, and they passed. So I don't think the sims are bad. Also, the sockets have metal clips, so I don't think this is the socket isn't holding the sim in problem, like it could be if they were plastic clips. Mike's asking, where can I get RAM chips for an Atari 130 XE? Maybe someone in the chat knows, because I'm not familiar with that Atari to know where to get caps for it. All right. Well, all right. I guess the best thing to do is for me to pull up a schematic. And then maybe Okay, so I found some redrawn schematics. All right. So here's the 68030 processor and the math coprocessor and a PAL. I think that PAL's probably related to video, considering it's got sync signals going into it. And then I think that's the PDS connector. All right, so I don't think that's what I'm looking for. All right, so that's the ROM sim. These are something. Looking for the Sims. There we go. That looks like Sims right there. All right, so let's go up to like 200%. All right, so that is the glue chip. U18. Does look like it's doing a dressing, but I'm not going to assume. Probably not the glue chip. Now there is a UD1A. That's a 74F240. It looks like that is connected to the CAS signals. And this 74F240 connected to the RAS signals. 74F240. All right, where are those on the board? Could be UD1A and B. Oh, there it is. It's right here. So not quite where I would expect a chip that might have been affected by electrolyte to be. Plus, I think we'd have bigger problems if we weren't refreshing memory. So that's probably not it. But I'm expecting there's probably another. Oh, and there's also a resistor pack down here. There was an electrolyte capacitor down here, but yeah, I'm not. That's not quite looking like what I was looking for. I'm looking for maybe if there's some buffer chips or something on address or data lines. All right. That's the versatile interface adapter. All right. So those probably aren't it. Let's see here. That's ADB. The shift register for video. Those are, yep, video multiplexers. Oh, sorry. I've been scrolling. I didn't realize. Oh, here we go. There's the address line pin matrix. Oh, that could be handy. All right. So there are some RAM muxes. So UJ2, UJ3, UJ4, UI2, UI3, and UI4. Those are marked as RAM muxes. Okay, those are over here. So it looks like those are these 6 chips here. One of them does have a rather interesting spot on it, but I can't quite tell. Oh, sorry, I forgot to go to table cam. Okay, so according to this table, there are some RAM Mux chips. They are right here. And one of them has a dot on it. I can't tell what the dot's about, but that's why I've got a microscope. Let me see if I can get the microscope in here without. Oh, probably for the. Oh, let me guess. That's flux. And here I was thinking it was a burn mark. Yeah, John says should be the ones next to the RAM slots. Yep. Well, I guess let me move the. There we go. All right, I guess we'll inspect those. I don't have replacements for these, so if I think any of them are bad, I will have to order some. There's that one. That is UJ4. That's UJ3. And that should be UJ2 right there. And then that's the ROM sim. That's interesting. What is that? Hey, let me get a little piece of paper and a little something and see if I can figure out what that is. One of these swabs would work. Let's see if I can find the package I've already opened. There. weird. I don't know what that is. Something under the ROM sim. Yeah, John says solder on 5 volts could be better, but otherwise all traces look good. Yeah, I'm with you there. Trying to figure out. That looks like there's something right. I don't know if maybe that's just glue, old glue from where Apple glued it before soldering it, or if the plastic's a bit rough there. Something under the socket. I don't know. It looks weird, but it looks like it's attached to the socket, whatever it is. I mean, yeah, I could reflow these chips. Oh, John says looks like a break on the socket, but no worries. Yeah, whatever it is, I think it's the edge of the socket. We'll use the tip of my multimeter to. And those all look soldered there. I mean, they're TI chips. Let's look at the glue chip. I mean, admittedly, I could probably clean the board a little better, and maybe I should run it through the ultrasonic cleaner now that I've recapped it. But I'm wondering if maybe what I should do is order a few 74 F258s. Because all right, I can think of two likely causes. All right, one we can inspect for now, but it's 11:30, so I'm probably going to, unless I see a slam dunk signs of a broken solder joint, I probably won't reflow all the pins. If I see a broken solder joint, we'll reflow the broken joint. But one thing, maybe there's a broken solder joint on one of the sim slots. You see something, say something, but please try to. I'm going to try to move slow enough so that at least you can see the diode number. So if you see something, let me know which diode number it's closest to. That'll help me find it. All right, some of these. All right, those don't look like the most solder-filled sim slots, but well, that kind of looks. That looks weird. That solder joint does not look like the others. It's almost like maybe someone reflowed that at the factory because I haven't reflowed them. Actually, I'm wondering if one of these diodes was bad, would that cause memory issues? I'll have to look at where they are in the schematic. All right, so that's, I think, seconds. I'm only going to check bank A's sim slots. Okay, I think those were just shadows. Yeah, John sees that. I'm not sure if that's corrosion or just flux residue from where I probably really should clean the board. But you know, that would be easy to test. And yeah, if that's uneven corrosion on those solder joints, then I probably should just reflow them. Probably reflow them all, but let's see here. Um, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour out some isopropyl alcohol in a small little thing that I will probably inevitably knock over. And I'm using my electric toothbrush, and I'm just going to see what of that corrosion comes off the board with a little mild brushing action, and what of it stays. I'm just going to scrub like this row Sims. Actually, all right. So that was just a little bit of a scrub. Actually, something on the bottom of the logic board, but it's in a ground plane. So I'm not too worried about it. Still, maybe reflowing those would be a decent idea. While I'm thinking of it, though, let's see if we can figure out what kind of diodes those are. Trying to scroll to a page that makes sense to start to look at. Ideally, trying to find the page of the schematic where the diodes are. Oh, I don't see them anywhere. So, after scrubbing, kind of does look like some of that's coming off the bottom of the board. John says RAM joints look fine, diode joints look corroded still, but are probably connected electrically. I'm thinking that maybe what I should do is I'm wondering if maybe I should do a couple things. First, wondering if I should go ahead and ultrasonically clean the board again now that I've recapped it to get any last remaining flux residue off the board and any like contaminants off the board. I don't know if that'll fix the RAM issue, but I did not clean the board as long as I normally would because I figured I'd wait for recapping. So that's probably one thing I should do. Oh, I bumped my camera here. So probably first thing I should do, ultrasonically clean the board again to get any last electrolyte or flux residue off. Second thing I should probably do, maybe order some 74F258s. Because the most likely thing that I would think that might have failed is one of those transceiver chips. One between the RAM and wherever they're connected to. And then maybe another thing would be maybe order a few of these diodes in case one of them's bad. I don't know. I don't know what the likelihood of that is. And I wish I could find them on the schematic, honestly. I think they might have gotten missed when they redrew the schematic, though. Because I do not. I think they should be on the sheet with the RAMs, the SIM slots, but they're not there. John's asking, do I get a RAM error code and unhappy Mac on screen? No, I don't. I get a test failure in Snooper. I get a RAM test failure in Snooper, and if I only have 4 megabytes on the board when that happens, then I get a bus error. Which made me think that there's still could be something wrong with the board. However, every time I've let it boot, I get a happy Mac and it boots into the Snooper emergency disk. And Snooper tells me I have an SE30, so John says, okay, so error's not in the first X kilobytes of RAM. Yeah, whatever the problem is, it's... Oh, I think I found the diodes in the schematic. They are... There they are. At least I know what type they are, and then there's the transceivers. John says I could check the diodes in circuit. Yes, I could. Yeah, I could check those in circuit. All right. All right. Looking at these, third pin is ground. .8 volts. Okay. Wait a minute. These are. Oh, I'm going to have to look up what kind of diodes these are. Because they are conducting .8 volts in one direction and .3 volts in the other. But the symbol is not a standard diode symbol. They are a BAS 40-06. Schottky diodes. Okay. I probably saw that coming. All right, let me see what the data sheet is. Forward voltage. 0.4 volts. According to this data sheet. What's the reverse voltage? First voltage is 40 volts. This data sheet's not making any sense. Well, it looks like according to the data sheet, they are going to conduct in both directions. Let's see here. These are common anode. Which means I bet .8 volts is about all my meter puts out for diode testing. Uh, my meter doesn't beep in diode test mode. All right. Well, I will check them all real quick. Kinda wished it beeped. Because then it would be quicker to test these because I wouldn't have to actually look at the screen. Okay. So at least in that direction. Hi, Jack. Welcome. Yeah, this is about the last thing I'm trying. I've got a some sort type of RAM error. I get a Happy Mac. I can boot into the Snooper emergency disk, but it when I run the RAM test, it fails, and sometimes get a bus error when it fails. Well, yep. Okay, well that one's actually fun. I thought I found a bad diode, but all right, maybe I'll still order some of these diodes from Mauser when I order the 74F258s. Just in case. All right, well. Okay. Looks like all the diodes are testing good. Had a little trouble getting my probe on one of them, but that was probably just user error of the probe. All right. So although I am still going to put some diodes in my cart that are in stock. Maybe I'll order these ones from Nexperia. I'm gonna figure out what the difference in the letters of the part number are. One's got a W and the other does not. W1 is an SOT 323 package. One that does not have the W in the name is a SOT 23. Oh, all right, I'm going to look up what the difference is. Oh, gee. Oh, it's the see it. It's the distance between the pins. All right. Let me grab my calipers and measure. If it's an SOT 23, legs on the diodes be about that far apart. Yep, I'm pretty sure that's an SOT 23 part. All right. Also, I think now that I think about it, I think the 323 is the newer part. Hello, Foxhound 477. John says, I'll test okay. Could it be ROM? Hmm. I don't know if it would be ROM. Partly because Snooper's not giving me any indication that it's testing the ROM. All right. And I guess if we're going to. All right. So I think that wraps up the stream. I went ahead and put some items in my Mauser cart, mainly the diodes. Although I don't think they're a problem, but they're cheap. I'm going to order parts. I'll order the diodes, and I got the 74F 258s that are the transceivers for the memory. Those would be my guesses as to something that could be intermittent and cause the problems we're seeing. They're also fairly cheap. The 74F258s are, I'll order 10 of them, so they're 56 cents a piece. Plus another 6 cents in tariff. So I guess that actually makes them about 62 cents each. Okay, that's fairly cheap. And then the diodes are what, 9 cents a piece. 9.3 cents to be technical, but I'll round it off. They're 9 cents a piece. That's pretty cheap. The tantalum caps for a 486 board is that I have is the most expensive thing in my Mauser cart right now, and I should probably measure the board while I'm down here after I end the stream, just to make sure the ones I'm ordering aren't too small or too big. That's yeah, it's the 486 board that has the corroded part on it that I opened on Tuesday. Anyways, I think with that, I'm going to wrap the stream. I am ready for bed so I can go to work tomorrow. And with that, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when I go live next. I am planning on going live on Tuesday, but I don't know what the topic will be yet. Not Tuesday, Monday. Yes, I changed my streaming night. I will probably say Tuesday and have to correct myself for a couple weeks. Anyways, so next week I do plan on streaming Monday. However, Thursday I am going to Richmond to go so I can go see a friend who is a poet that's giving a show. So I will not have 2 streams next week. Or if I do have 2 streams next week, it will be not. Now, I'll probably just do 1 stream since I'm traveling. I mean, I put too much stress on myself. So yeah, next week we'll just do 1 stream. The following week, at the moment I only have 1 stream scheduled because I'm going somewhere Monday night. So I'm only streaming Thursday the following week. However, I'm not 100% sold on making that trip. So following week I could have 2 streams. Or I had thought about just streaming Tuesday that week, but I have a conflict on Tuesday that week. So yeah, I guess next week and the following week it may be 1 stream just because of things on my calendar. So I may try to fit a 3rd stream in, so at least I'm most of the way at my normal average 2 streams a week, but we'll see. We'll see where I might be able to squeeze 1 in. But anyways, yeah, subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when I go live next. Tuesday or Monday, I don't know that I'm going to have a chance to order parts for the SE30 to get them in by Monday. So we may go back to looking at trying to put those PCs back together on Monday. Unless I get my Megafile cable, then we may actually look at the Atari ST. So, Jack says, ew, PC. Jesse says there's too much going on these days. Yeah, exactly. So anyways, we'll see. If I get the cable for the Megafile, if it actually comes in, I will probably confirm it's the correct cable before I schedule it. But if I get the cable, we'll look at the Atari ST, because I'll actually have what I need to try to power up the Megafile and see if it works. If that cable doesn't come in, then it may be PCs. Just because for my own sanity, I would like to get some project put back together. Because the thing is, if I order parts from Mauser tomorrow, I would have to pay for next day shipping to get them Monday, and that's like $25. So in all reality, I won't have parts for the SE30 on Monday just because I'm not going to pay $25 shipping for $50 in components. Just not going to happen. Jack's asking how many Trident cards can you put in one PC? Um, Jack's asking, does Windows support 6 displays? All right. The problem is multi-displays really only started coming about in the so okay, here's the problem. The way PCI cards worked for those in that era, the card was mapped to a fixed memory address, as far as I know. So I don't know that you can have more than one video card installed. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe PCI cards, you could have more than one, but you'd be to the mercy of the operating system supporting it. I don't know if Trident cards were new enough to actually possibly support having more than one in the computer. I would have to go look and see when multiple video cards started to generally become supported. Yeah, Jack says, I feel like you'd be in the BIOS mucking around with IRQs or something. Yeah, quite possibly. I don't know. It would be a curious experiment. Maybe I'll do some research to see when computers started supporting more than one video card. And if Trident was making cards around that time, then maybe it might work. But if I find out that Windows didn't support multiple video cards until, say, Windows XP, then well, that does seem a bit. Because let's see here. Windows 3.1, I don't think it supported multiple displays. Yeah, Jesse's saying XP era is my guess. Yeah, so maybe that's why XP seems right that it started to support multiple displays. Because I don't remember about 2000. I don't know that the consumer versions of Windows 98 or 95 did support multiple displays. And I never really used ME to know. And I don't think NT4 supported multiple displays because I don't ever remember seeing NT4 with multi displays. Although it's possible there were some, like, certainly not NT with Trident cards. I'm not going to say that there wasn't some card out there somewhere that had multiple displays, because I know there were some that had multiple displays, but the card appeared to Windows as one large display, and internally it took care of having two smaller displays attached to it. So I don't I know there were some of those back then, but I'm not calling that really multi-display, because as far as Windows was concerned, there was one monitor. It just happened to be a really wide monitor. I'm talking about when you actually had Windows supporting two monitors and Windows knew there were two, not the video card knows there are two and it's fooling Windows. Yeah, Jack's saying, I feel like Monitor's control panel that lets you rearrange displays was in XP and maybe not before that. All right, I am curious enough to know. All right, let me see if the search engine will tell me real quick. When did Windows start supporting two monitors? Oh, here we go. On Stack Exchange, Retro Computing. Oh, interesting. This page I found. First time I saw this was on an SE30. How appropriate! Using the internal display along with a big external CRT. Okay, yep, I knew that. We've seen those radius cards, whatnot, yada yada yada. Jesse says NT4 definitely didn't. All right. Then the person's gearing up to finally ask, I can't recall when Windows started to support multiple displays like this. Which version of Windows first offered this functionality and with what sorts of display cards? All right. Note, specifically asking about desktop/OS recognizing both displays, not just mirroring a display to an external monitor. Okay. All right, so here's the answers. MS-DOS supported multiple monitors if one was attached to a Hercules graphics card, and then the other one would have been to like a CGA card. Okay. But I don't know that MS-DOS really was recognizing both displays, but the application could. And I think there were some applications that actually could do it. But the question was Windows, not DOS. So, okay. Someone's saying it was Windows 98 was the first version to provide official support, but some video cards had custom drivers on 95. Not posting as an answer because I don't have specific. Okay. Da 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 da. Oh, you could apparently do Hercules and VGA. Okay. Dual monitor. Let's see here. Blah blah blah. All right, so someone's got the answer. The first version of Windows to provide built-in support for multiple monitors on graphics cards with appropriate drivers was Windows 98. NT, it was added with 2000. I guess then the follow-on question would be, when did Windows start supporting two graphics cards? Ha! Okay, that's... Well, okay, that's a less successful web search, because apparently... Okay, I did find a page on Tom's Hardware forums. Someone's asking, they're trying to install two graphics cards. So someone says, yes, unlike Vista, XP did support different graphics cards from different manufacturers installed simultaneously. Anyone chime in about earlier? Ah. Yes, because I think there's a distinction here, and this will probably require some more research. So Windows 98 support might depend on the video card having two monitor outputs. It might be XP when you could have two graphics cards. But 98 may have required the video card to support both monitors. Because the thing is, if you remember that one answer we found, it specifically was saying dual monitors. It didn't say anything about dual graphics cards. Ah. Anyways, all right, let's catch up and then I'm gonna wrap it up. Jack says ChatGPT says Windows 98, but NT4 had limited support. Jesse says my PowerBook 165 can do multiple displays with the special cable. Jack says, lol, it's an Apple, so obviously there was a special cable. Yeah. Sad Max says, well, this is food for thought. I know I've had Windows 7 do dual monitors, but that was also on a 2011 laptop. And Jack says, sorry, I've sent you down a rabbit hole. Yep. It's okay. Sad Max says, haven't tried dual monitors on older versions of Windows. Ian says, I'm on a conference bridge at work. Hate having to do that after midnight. Stian says, Chat GPT suggested running macOS 9 on my microwave. ah, ah, ah. Yes. Yes, the same technology that also recommended putting glue in pizza dough and that tried to tell me that some doctor was the first person to upload a chocolate chip cookie recipe to the internet, or to upload a recipe to the internet, and it was a chocolate chip cookie recipe. That when I then followed up asking who this doctor was, the Chat GPT had to apologize that because Chat GPT realized it had just made up this doctor. Jack's asking me, what operating system can I install on my microwave? I recommend Popcorn OS, extra butter. With that, I think it's time to draw the stream to a close because I do have to go to work in the morning and I'm starting to fall asleep. Sad Max says, sometimes I'm not worried about LLMs replacing people. Yeah, I have that feeling sometimes, especially when they give absolutely hilarious answers, because then you'll need humans to proofread what the LLM says. Which then, at that point, just let the human do it. But anyways. Stian says, people cause me enough worry without any thoughts about AI. Yeah. Anyways, with that, I'm going to draw the stream to a close. So I hope you all will join me next time. Thanks for hanging out in the chat, being cool, moral support, and seeing that the SE30 boots, but we got a memory error to fix. And realized my phone has been sitting over here. Oh. Yeah, I'd better close Droid Cam because my phone battery is at 7%. So at least I can turn off smart switches with it. But anyways, yep, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Let me set my phone down so I can do my usual outro. Yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Take care and God bless. Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support. I hope to see you next time. And until then, take care